Great defeaters, new and old. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of The Breakdown, if I do say so myself, with your hosts, BaseDaKID, Tony, the Pugilist Boy. We are the children of the game. Tony, good evening, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I'm on different settings today. I'm away with my children from school on a outward bound trip, so I'm using remote out of bounds Wi-Fi. So I'm hoping it stands strong for the next hour. But I'm very much infused by the fact that we have a full program of boxing to review. So without further delay, shall we get into saying our customary hellos to everybody in the house? So,
of course, it's only right.
So welcome Mulla, welcome Bruce Kai, welcome MC Tasty, welcome Uncle Jonah, welcome Osborne, welcome Off the Canvas, welcome North Bank Bren, Jam Down 187. Already with the super chat, I see you, Ash1. Thank you very much as always. So yeah, thank you very much once again, guys, for coming in on this Tuesday evening and giving us your time. So we'll get into it without any further delay. Let's just see what this super chat is about from Ash, though, first and foremost. Once again, Ash, thank you very much for your generosity. Danair and White, worst shouts of the year. Not good enough. A ban is necessary at this point. Did I really pick Noni or Danair?
No, I did.
Oh,
but yeah, that one's regarding me. I'll explain that when we get to that fight.
Okay. So, Ash is going to have his say. Okay, well, we look forward to your comments as we go along, Ash. Base needs this smoke. Oh, my God.
Well, when he had the chance to give me the smoke the other week, he didn't take it. So it's not that show, unfortunately. I should have saved that for yesterday.
But yeah, welcome everybody else, and we shall get straight into Saturday night. So Saturday night was a night of full action. Started off in the Principality of Wales with a certain young man by the name of Joe Cordina in what looked like a very tough fight against Kenichi Ogawa. All I can say is, wow. Knockout of the year. What a destructive performance by bad boy Joe Cordina. Yeah, it was a wicked knockout. I mean, you know, we all know that Joe Cordina has excellent boxing skills. He has a great pedigree. His come up so far has looked very impressive, but we had to ask the question: who is he boxed of note where you could actually say, you know, he's able to compete at this level? And in Ogawa, he was facing up against a monster, a guy who has a very good pedigree himself, and as of late looked very impressive. But I don't think anybody really saw this, because you know, we could possibly have seen a decision win from Cordina if he really kept to his boxing and kept it sharp all night, which was, to me, going to be very difficult, because I could have seen Ogawa eventually getting close to him and being the heavier-handed boxer, potentially causing him a lot of problems in the second half of the fight and potentially even knocking him out. But the script was flipped, and it was Cordina who came in with the big shots, offered some nice jabs, and the finished right hand was phenomenal. So the flowers and the congratulations to Joe Cordina, Yakida, young fella. It was great to see. Base, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when I spoke about this in my video, I basically had said that I believe he's going to prove that he's on that level, that he's at that world stage, but I'm just not sure if he's had the necessary step up fight to actually get him there to get through that victory. So I did pick Ogawa to actually win on points, but with obviously Cordina to prove that he's the goods. I don't think there's anyone who can with a straight face say that they predicted him to win a second round knockout against Ogawa. Even if it was a late stoppage, no one was predicting within 2 rounds. So that being said, it's like I don't think anyone can be blamed for getting that prediction wrong. I mean, and there's only really 2 rounds to talk about, but with regards to that, it's like you could kind of see in the first round that Joe Cordina had almost set a little bit of a precedent in the minds of everyone else, because whereas he's normally like this, he's like this fleet-footed guy, can kind of hit you from that angle, spin out, get away from the shots that are coming back. He was holding his feet a lot more, there was very little movement apart from obviously the odd little step here and there. And that's one thing that was kind of telling, to say, oh, so it's not even like he's actually going for he's not looking to outbox this guy at this point. It's almost like, okay, he's actually looking to come and fight at some point, whether it's like right now or a bit down the line. And in the first round, even though like he was doing sort of well gauging distance and stuff, but he wasn't he was still sort of losing that round quite comprehensively, because Ogawa's power was definitely giving him trouble. Obviously that left hook that he caught him with when Cordina ducked down to his right hand side to try and avoid I think it was the straight right, and Ogawa switched it to the left hook, and that kind of wobbled him a little bit. And it's almost like at that point he said, okay, I've got to remain switched on, and it just looked like Ogawa was about to start going through the gears. You transition to that second round, and again Cordina held his feet. He started to jab more with him. He started to just apply a bit more pressure. He aimed for the body several times to make Ogawa think that that's where the shots were going, and then ultimately, as we saw, it was that quick sudden fake jab with the straight right coming behind it. There was no tell on the punch, and the punch came super fast. There was literally no way to react, to get out of the way, to brace yourself for it. It was just a rocket shot, came out of nowhere, but was perfectly placed. And yeah, that was all she wrote.
Indeed it was. I mean, there's so little action from that fight to talk about, other than to praise Joe for his performance. What was pleasing to see was the fact that he was fighting on home soil in Wales. He obviously had his countrymen supporting him in big volume, but he had his team with him. Conor Ben, Craig Richards. Who else is in his camp? He's got a nice camp there, isn't it? It's that Tony Sims group.
Cheeseman's there, but I don't know if he attended.
But it was good to see them all turn up, and of course, commentary from Josh Buatsi, who was his Olympic teammate. I think they were roommates at some time. But that was a nice touch to see the team supporting their guy get his belt. In terms of where does he go next, I mean, obviously the king of the division is Shakur Stevenson. Does he look at that fight, or what fights do you figure would be a good stepping stone towards that?
Well, no, his first thing he's got to do is take care of his mandatory, Rakhimov. So once he does that, I personally think he shouldn't fight Shakur Stevenson next, only because I think Eddie should try and get Roger Gutierrez to come over, basically to get Cordina to take that belt, to make it an undisputed between him and Shakur. No point doing it for a unified when you've got the opportunity to do that undisputed. And since Shakur will come over to the UK, like that shouldn't be a hard fight to make. And even with Bob trying to put his oars in and stop the fight from happening, I don't think it will be. I just think Shakur will protest too much to not allow that fight to happen. So yeah, that would be my idea. I would say take care of the mandatory, go into the unification with Gutierrez, and then after that, then you can go to the Shakur Stevenson super fight.
Cool. A couple of comments on board. Ash says, Cordina needs to get respected. A British fighter hasn't made this type of statement of world level in years.
Very true.
Okay. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, who would have been the last one? Because no one's made a statement like that since
but what
probably
about Josh
AJ.
Taylor?
It wasn't the same. I mean,
the achievement is way better.
the achievement might
okay,
have been, but the
no
statement
knockout,
wasn't the same.
The achievement is way better. Let's be honest.
But what you're talking about an achievement as opposed to the actual statement of a division, because when in Josh Taylor, in all of his fights, he was never like some raging outsider.
But
Whereas
he went through the
Ogawa
process.
was
That's the
considered the
thing.
favorite.
He went through the Super Series process and came out top. So,
but that was still over 3 years ago, Tony. Where he said in years. So you're.
I'm gonna count that one. I think that counts as within a year's time frame. But you know, hey, it is what it is. Danesh says, where does Cordina rank among British prospects stroke fighters?
Well, he's not a prospect anymore, so he's ranks amongst the world champions.
Yeah, of which we
ranks amongst the best in Britain.
Yeah. So, you know, Josh Taylor, him, just trying to figure who else have we got. Scrap. Yeah, there's not many. So he's elevated himself right up the top in terms of fighters in the UK right now because he now has a strap. Paul Butler has a title as well.
Yeah, but Paul Butler was gifted the title. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, true that. But we'll get to Paul Butler because his nemesis or his co-weight champion was in action today. So we'll get to Paul Butler very soon. Fury has made 0 statements. I think you have to give credit to Fury in that he did what he had to do and in the way he did it, you know, destroying Wilder 2 times out of 3 and getting robbed of the third. I think he has to go get some credit for that. Whether, again, that counts within the recent years, I don't know. But, what Cordina has done is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, announced himself as one of the top 3 or 4 fighters in Britain right now, based on this performance against a credible foe. Any more on that one? Okay. So let's move on, guys. On the same card, we saw, get to it, Zelfa Flash. I watched this fight. It's very interesting. Zelfa boxed well. You know, it looked like he had some kind of statement to make. You know, his foe was rugged. His foe was one that was throwing the kitchen sink in early rounds, but eventually Zelfa found his gears and was able to take his opponent all the way and totally dominate him through, you know, 3/4 of the fight to the end and put himself in a very good position to start talking about the very said titles that Joe Cordina has now earned himself and won. And of course, there was talk about the fact that Zelfa himself could have been that guy fighting for that world title. But, you know, politics is politics. We are here only to really address in the main the performance. And I thought it was a masterful performance by Zelfa. He needed, I think, at the end of the fight to press a little bit more. You know, I don't think he would have ever taken out his opponent, whose name it's totally escaped me. Help me. What was his opponent's name?
Perioni.
Perioni, that's it. I don't think he would have beat him had that been 20 rounds, because that guy's got some chin on him. But, you know, what he did do was totally dominate the guy and give him very little option in terms of being able to hit. The art of hitting and not getting hit was exactly what Zelfa did. And I was very impressed by the performance. Where that takes him now, we can talk about. What was your thoughts on the fight, Brody?
I mean, it was a good fight. He definitely he showed some improvement, but he definitely seemed a bit gun shy, and that's not the first time in the last sort of recent couple fights where he has looked a bit tentative. Looks like he's thinking way too much, overthinking it sometimes, trying to force some shots when they're not there. But generally speaking, yeah, with he had a tough opponent, so he had to be smart and calculated. But I feel like there was a lot more that he could have done. So I still feel like there's probably another fight for him before going the world title route or getting a shot against one of the champions, because there's still something that's not 100% clicking at the moment. I'm not quite sure what it is, because he's doing everything well, but you can still see that there's some glaring flaws that will get found out above the level that he's currently boxing at.
Mm-hmm. Question in the chat: do either of us fancy Zelfa to beat Joe?
No.
I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I don't. I think Joe is a step ahead of Zelfa, but it's an interesting matchup when one looks at it. You know, Zelfa is a very good, established boxer puncher. I just think Joe's a little bit more spiteful, and maybe has a slightly slicker game to him.
Yeah, I could see that.
Danny at Fight Fan is in the house. Big up Jamaican posse in the house. What do you guys think of Archie Sharp calling out Joe Cordina and Shakur Stevenson, not even calling Zelfa Barrett out first for the European? Well, don't think much of it at all, because, you know, who the hell is Archie Sharp?
Didn't he get knocked out by a journeyman like two fights ago? Is that the same I'm sure that's the same person I'm thinking of on the Queensbury card.
You got me. Who the hell is Joe? I mean, if it happened, it's happened beyond, you know, under the radar where I wasn't looking. So he's not on my radar. Archie's unbeaten.
Fine. If Archie's unbeaten, who's the guy that Frank was touting that got knocked out? Like, cause you can help me out here, because I don't remember Frank Warren fight as too tough.
Kelly Maloney, I think, is having a laugh. We'll ignore that. He ran away when he knew he was losing. He quit.
Okay.
Balfour Owusu says Chris Colbert will beat Joe Cordina. To which Ash comes in and retorts, Chris Colbert is absolute rubbish. He quit in his last fight. So right now, I don't think any of those chasing pack really are in a position to be talking up a fight with Cordina, with the exception of Zelfa and the names that we've mentioned.
Yeah. Well, let's see how it all plays out.
Indeed.
Like I said, it was a good performance. It just wasn't as good as it could have been. He needs to get some of his belief back, which I just don't fully think is there at the moment. But yeah, let's see where we go.
Okay. Zelfa needs to make noise. He's too coy. I mean, he's not a loud, braggadocious type, you know. That's not always the best way to present yourself. You know, sometimes you just got to stay under the radar and let your gloves do the talking. and I think that's what he's doing. Also on the card, we did see Skye Nicholson in what was not her greatest performance, but just a tick over fight. What was your thoughts on that one, Base?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably her hardest fight in terms of the type of opponent she was facing. Maybe her last opponent gave her more of a spirited effort, but this was the type of fight where she kind of needed, because as a pure boxer, you know, they always say the kryptonite for a pure boxer is a pressure fighter. So when Bouvier started to sort of bring the pressure and kind of grapple, it made it a bit uncomfortable for Skye. But ultimately, with her just a long reach, the long levers, she controlled it and won every single round just as she normally does. But it wasn't a great performance, and she's now said, oh well, having done 4 fights in 90 days, maybe she needs a break and whatnot. I mean, I don't know. Modern, when we look at modern day boxers like that, how many fights did Mike Tyson have in his first year? Didn't he have like 12?
12, yeah, at least.
So yeah, so someone telling me that they need a break after 4, and they've only been really doing sort of 4 and 6 rounders. I don't really yeah, it doesn't really fly too tough for me. However, at the end of the day, everyone's body is different. So who am I to tell her how she should be feeling or the kind of performance she should be putting in? She did what she needed to do. She dominated. Hopefully she can have a month away or however long she's taken off. Come back to the gym, get fresh for say September time, put on another good performance, and then have a sick fight before the end of the year. Because right now, the more fights she has, the better she'll ultimately be. To respond to Jam Down's question about can we acknowledge that she's overhyped because of her looks? I mean, well, yeah, she is, but a lot of the female fighters are overhyped based on their looks. The ones who don't necessarily look attractive to people don't get the same level of attention and credit. It's just, it is what it is. It's the same with some of the guys, well, even the most marketable boxing, like the guys are quote unquote good looking as well. So that's not exclusive to the women. But she's all right. She's definitely got levels to go. But I do know that in her weight division, there are some other ladies that I would definitely pitch to beat her. I definitely think out of Skye, out of Boxer, Queensbury, and the Zone, I definitely do think Skye is the weakest of their 126 pounders. And yeah, I think she would get taken out by the others, in my personal opinion. But that doesn't mean that she's not a good boxer.
Cool. Okay, so that completes. I mean, there was a stat card. I saw Dalton Smith go through his paces. Didn't look overly impressive, but he got the W. And again, another guy that is just being sort of brought along steadily, not being anything too braggadocious, but just biding his time, going through the learning experience as a pro.
Sorry, yeah, apologies. Earlier I said that Barrett was facing Perione. No, he was facing Korbanov. Dalton Smith faced Perione. Just wanted to correct that in case anyone puts it in the comments later.
Yeah. So yeah, Dalton Smith, went through his paces. I thought that was a half decent fight to watch. But
yeah, he's a talent.
He's not tearing up trees at the moment, but it's early days for him.
I think Dalton Smith's the goods. I think he's gonna come good. He's got all the raw ingredients. He's one of the best prospects in the UK, in my opinion. And I think he's just gonna go from strength to strength.
Did you see any other fights on that card that piqued your interest or you wanted to talk about?
Not particularly. I did watch the majority of them, but yeah, those were the main ones worth talking about.
Okay. If anybody thinks that there was a fight we've missed out on that long card, because it was a long card, give us a shout and we'll see what we know about it to mention it. White Tony says Dalton Smith's going to go far. So, just checking my details. We move on to the next fight of the night, which was the show from the States featuring Cool Boy Stephen Fulton against Daniel Roman for the Super Bantamweight Championship. And the co-event was David Morrell against Henderson. Now, this guy has suddenly become quite interesting a name to be talking about. I mean, Steph Fulton. As a unified champion, holding 2 belts currently in the Super Bantamweight division, I thought this was a very masterful performance, one which makes me think it's time now to be talking about undisputed for this guy. You know, because he's put on some good performances under the radar. You know, not a lot of people know this guy. But, you know, bearing in mind the stage was set. Oh, that's not the right one. The stage was set for him as the main event on this card for PBC. I thought it was a fantastic performance. He utilized very nice switch hitting. He has this nice sort of, it's like I'm going to throw a shot halfway out. It's a dummy shot. It gets you to pull your shot out or to go for the block, and then he comes at you with another shot in between the shots. He utilized that all night long, and I thought it was a very, very impressive performance by Steph Fulton. As I said, you know, with this performance, if anyone was able to watch this, they would have seen a consummate performance that will make you start saying, we're now starting to see a build-up of these undisputed champions. Could Steph Fulton be the next one? I honestly believe he could be. Obviously, we're going to talk about another guy a bit later, Mr. Inoue. But right at this point, Steph Fulton represents a guy who could very easily become undisputed. What were your thoughts on the fight, Base?
Well, I've only actually seen 5 rounds, and I was literally watching them before the show. Had some other things to do, so I didn't fully get round to it. But from what I did see, I liked he did a lot of tiny, faint steps and movements, which I thought were very intelligent. He would sort of inch his way in, slowly step in like half a step with the front foot, but then he would switch an angle and then take half step backs with the back foot while he was hitting, to make sure that he was out of range for when Danny Roman was trying to trade with him. From what I saw, he got caught a couple times on the ropes, and Roman was definitely looking for that body attack and was having some success there, but Fulton was never in a spot or position long enough to take sort of more than like 2 shots at a time, and he was angling his way out, sort of riding those shots, so he wasn't taking sort of full impact. He would, every time he would sort of throw out a straight right, he would dip down, normally underneath Roman when he was swinging either the left hook or the straight right. Anytime he thought that Roman was about to try and come with an uppercut, which I saw him attempt to do a couple of times, Fulton would get on the inside and clinch and hold, but he wouldn't just hold for the break. He would hold and then start doing a little bit of inside work, separating Roman's arms so that he could then land uppercuts or quick body shots before angling himself out. So from what I saw of those 5 rounds, he was doing well. His lack of power may get him found out against a big punchers, because his boxing skills are good, but if he comes up against someone who's got good boxing skills and power and they're not respecting his shots, that could be a very long night for him. Him versus Akhmadaliev, there's a precedent to say that he could outbox Akhmadaliev, but Madaliev's got a much higher amateur pedigree and between the two of them hits harder as well. So that one looks a lot more like I could probably see Akhmadaliev claiming that victory, depending on, I guess, which network it takes place on.
Okay.
By the way, in the chat, what's the sound like? Can you hear us clearly? Just want to make sure it's not too low. See what the people
let
say.
us know what people. If you can hear us clearly, you guys just let us know in the chat.
Okay, yeah, they say it's fine.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so yeah, I mean the guy that obviously is holding the other two belts, as you mentioned, MJ Akhmadaliev, you know, a very solid champion at Super Bantam as well. You know, I think these two guys need to get it on. You know, look, we're in the era now where we're seeing more and more of these fights being made. We've obviously just seen Devin Haney get released out of his matchroom deal in order to go and get belts in another platform. So, you know, I think the writing's on the wall now. You know, boxing fans, we want to see more of this thing going on where guys are saying, you know, look, I'm willing to take on the best and risk it all so that there's one guy ranked as the #1 in the division. I see there's at least another 4 or 5 divisions right now where that could happen in one fight or 2 at most. So yeah, you know, timing is everything. But this is a fight I'd like to see. What the guys in the chat, if you guys know your super bantamweights, who would you predict out of MJ and Steph Fulton right now? I'm gonna go with Steph Fulton. I like the guy. I think he's got enough. I think Akhmadaliev is strong and is able to would withstand quite a lot. But I just think Fulton's got too much skills to be able to deal with him over the 12-round course. Do you agree with me, Base?
No, I said I think Akhmadaliev takes that fight.
You think Akhmadaliev wins? Okay.
Yeah,
So
I think his power. Because remember, the boxing skills between the two of them is comparable.
Okay.
Yes, Fulton might be a bit slicker, a bit more silkier, and has like decent switch hitting. But Akhmadaliev's no slouch. He's got an extensive amateur background himself. He knows how to cut off the ring, and he hits way harder than Fulton does. So that all to me just suggests it's a long night for Fulton.
Yeah. So guys in the chat, if you guys think you know this fight and want to make a prediction at this early stage, I'd love to see what you guys think, because Base and I have obviously got a difference of opinion on how we would see that fight going off. But yeah, we look forward to seeing that. So without any further delay, we'll move on to the other fight on that card, which was a certain young man by the name of David Morrell Jr. Was he fighting the 7th fight of his career? 7th pro fight? You know, it baffles me how he's 7 fights deep and he's already had 3 world title defenses already, or 2 defenses and a win. But, you know, he came up against this guy, Henderson, and to be honest, it just looks like a mismatch. It just looked like a mismatch from the off. Morrell, you know, he's got skills. You know, he was able to control this guy and eventually get the stoppage win. But yeah, David Morrell, what did you think of that one?
I haven't seen the fight. I just know that he won in 4 rounds, which, again, as I said before, I expected him to do so. But Henderson wasn't a slouch. He wasn't just a random knockover job. So that I give the win like credit, and I don't just look at it as though it's just another routine victory. It was still a good win. But I would, he did, by all accounts, he did what he had to do. I can't really say much more on it than that.
Yeah. Interesting comment from Ob saying he's not a Jesse David Benavidez fan. Let me get my Benavidez is right, but he smokes Morrell. What's your thoughts on that, Base?
Don't know if I agree with that one.
You don't agree?
I'm not saying I don't totally, but I don't know about that one. Not at this point. I mean, if you look at David Morrell, if you look at his trajectory, he's fighting much harder opponents and much better opponents than what David was at that same point in his career. And even now, some of his opponents have still been somewhat comparable to some of Benavidez's most recent ones, not including obviously Durrell and actually maybe Durrell. That's probably the last decent guy I can say that he really fought.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that Benavidez can't smoke him. He probably it definitely is in the realms of possibility. I just don't know if that's not a certainty for me. I feel like there's a reason David Morrell's been calling for that fight for so long, and he genuinely wants it. He's not just calling his name to make a name for himself. He wants that fight. So
yeah. Interesting. It's one of them, innit? He's got a WBA Reggie belt.
Yeah.
And you know, we had that Monday Night Smoke heave ho about the Reggie belts with Maestro yesterday on the show. You know, we got another Reggie belt this coming weekend that deserves no plaudits. I don't know. I think Benavidez is definitely above Morrell in ranking to me right now. But I'm kind of getting a little bit wary of David Benavidez now, because it's like he talks the talk, but he doesn't appear to be walking the walk.
You could say that about a lot of PBC fighters. That seems to be a lot of it is talk and very little action. So
yeah, too many Reggies, says MC Tasty. Ob says Morrell's too green. Obviously, fight fan Danny is David Benavidez's number one fan. But yeah, I'm not sure how the smoke is going to clear up in that super middle division. But we'll see. We won't go on to that one anymore. So that concludes the business from that card, because I didn't watch any of the rest of that card. I didn't even know who was on the rest of that card, in all honesty. Which brings us to
Down Under.
The Down Under fight. So yes, the big one, the real belts. No more email champion, no more pride champion. Who was going to be called out and be named the undisputed lightweight champion? And I'm going to let you go first, because I've been doing the talking most on these. So let you get into. What did you think of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, now in my video, everyone would have heard me specifically say that I was giving my 100% support to Haney and I was backing him 100%. But I have to be honest and say that I didn't pick him to win, nor did I pick George. So I remained neutral, but obviously Haney was who I wanted to win, and everyone knows that. Now, I said it would be a difficult fight, but I said it would be a difficult fight more for different reasons. Like for Haney, it would be a difficult fight because of where he is, and I guess the just literally having nothing on going for him whatsoever. But then on George's side, I said Haney has got levels. He's got more levels and a much higher ceiling to go. He's technically a better fighter than him now, and realistically, all of that's just going to pose problems to George. And I said ultimately his best way to win this fight is to pressure. He needs to pressure. He needs to get himself on the inside of Haney's jab. Whether he ties up or anything, he just has to look busy on the inside for him to win. And for Haney to win, he's just got to remain long. He's got to keep it long. He's got to box on the outside. He's got to move smartly, but just make it look ultimately clear to the judges that he's not hitting me. He can't touch me. Every time I'm hitting him, there's an effect. And every time he's swinging shots, he's missing. And ultimately, that is what he done. It was a nigh on masterclass. It wasn't a complete shutout because obviously he did let go in the 12th round. Some people gave Kambosos the 10th as well. But me personally, I gave Kambosos the 12th round just to be generous. Outside of that, I had Haney winning every other round. Dominated on away soil. The movement was sharp. The head movement was done. The head movement was superb as well. Every time he would throw certain shots, he would duck, and he was almost ducking under Kambosos' shots, like he could read his timing. Like Kambosos just looked lost. Labour didn't really know what to do particularly. And yeah, Haney just basically proved, number one, his levels above him. I've always maintained that Haney was like the best guy at 135. Prior to that, no one, the only option you could really maybe say is Lomachenko, but he doesn't have belts at the moment. And when you then look here, you say, okay, well, he never won his belt off from a champion. He was given his belt, ignoring the circumstances behind it. But now he wasn't given anything. Like, he literally done everything the hard way, going into the unified champion's backyard, taking a worse deal than he had previously, signing a multi-fight contract that that still puts him in less financial benefits than what he was previously earning. Done all of that to go and collect every belt quite easily. So there's nothing but undue respect and praise that has to go to Devin Haney. And yeah, he is undisputed and no one can't chat, especially people like Ryan Garcia. But that's another story.
Yeah. I mean, I see in the chat, somebody has put, MC Tasty, that the build-up to the fight was much more entertaining than the fight. To which I say the same as what I said yesterday. Sometimes you don't have to look flash. Sometimes you just have to not get hit, and get the job done. It's nice when you get that tear up and both guys are beating the crap out of each other, and then one finally finishes the fight. Those fights are always going to be ones that you will remember. But let's not get it twisted. Floyd had loads of fights where he totally dominated a guy for 12 rounds, never looked once like he was going to knock a guy out. Yeah, and you kind of have to put this performance in that category. It's just one of them performances where man goes out, does a job, doesn't get hurt, faculties intact, and it's just the W and all the straps. And all the straps is more important than the performance. There's times when, you need to get the performance because the opponent is such that you need to look good against that particular opponent. And obviously it is an entertainment business. But let's not get this twisted. Sometimes go in there, take the belts, get the job done, walk out at faculties intact. Because you don't gain nothing by being Mr. Hero and want to scrap in every fight. Yeah, plenty of guys have tried that strategy. Yeah, we all love a bit of Alan Babbage because that's what he lives by. But let's be honest, it don't serve you well in the long run. So yeah, flowers to Devin Haney. Look, I want to give my props to him. because Fight Fan TV, Danny has made it clear I was the one who called him the email champ. Yeah. And I was very vociferous in my view that he was not the man. Well, now he is the man. And I can give no greater pleasure to say I'm proud of the guy that he went in the guy's back garden. He tore up his contract with Matchroom to say, nope, I'm going into Top Rank's back garden. They're screwing me on a contract, but hell, the belts is more important. And he went out there and he did the job. As far as
he didn't have a Matchroom. He didn't have a Matchroom contract, by the way. He was out of contract 2 fights before that. He was a free agent.
But yeah, it was a remarkable performance. I'd argue the best performance from any fighter this year. That's questionable because on the same night, Cordina's performance, and then Inouye's performance today. There's been some really good fights this year. In all honesty, some really great performances. The game plan, application, and no loss of focus was amazing. And I'm gonna put a lot of that down to Bill Haney. I was praying that Bill Haney was going to make it there because I just felt last week when we talked that him being on his own, I think George Kambosos took that as an opportunity to try to outwit and put pressure on the young kid because he is young, you know, having pulled him out of his comfort zone, brought him all the way halfway around the world. And then on top of that, taking away his number one guy in terms of advice in the ring. So, you know, that was a great thing. And I don't know if George was involved in that. If George was at any part of getting Bill into the country, then I have to salute George. Even with all the crap that came out his mouth about rat this, rat that, snitch, etc. But yeah, that's my take on that fight. Where does he go now? What do you feel is the next step for young Devin?
Personally, I want him to move up. Making 135 isn't really doing him any favors anymore. I want him to move up, be stronger, a healthier weight for him, develop into that 140 frame to develop into a 147 sort of 4 years from now. That's what I want him to do. But you know, who am I?
I'm gonna be a bit greedy. I want him to defend the title 2 times because let's be honest, 140 is not as attractive as 135. 135, way better division, much better fights than 140. So for me personally, I got 2 names in the hat: Tank, Lomachenko.
All right, I'll disagree with you saying that 135 is way better. Like, you're discrediting a lot of extremely good and rugged fighters in the 140 division. Like William Zapata, he's a beast up there.
Come on. Now we're capping.
You've got him, you got Jack Catterall, you got Josh Taylor still at 140. Tio's at 140 now. How are you gonna act like these fighters ain't credible?
Okay, the one credible was Teofimo.
Why is he the one credible? Because he's the only one you know. Is that how we're going?
He's not. But the thing is, let's be honest. Lomachenko, I said 2 names: Lomachenko, Tank Davis. I wasn't greedy. I didn't say I want 3 defenses. I want 2 defenses. I don't care what order you put them in. Take on Lomachenko, take on Tank Davis.
And those 2 defenses could cost him his health.
Are way better than anything you can put at 140. I'm even going to include Josh Taylor in that. Because that fight to me is not even sell-worthy as Haney versus Tank or Haney versus Lomachenko.
And you want to, like I said, you want to take him to take 2 fights, which is going to be another year, essentially, and what potentially risk his longevity of his career by staying at one weight division for way too long.
No, because you know what? As Marcus has said, you're right, Tony. Loma and Tank is legacy. Because
so they can fight him at a catchweight.
Imagine this. You take those 2 cats out at lightweight and then you move up.
Why not face Tank at 140 since he's already been up there?
Let me give you a little short synopsis. If he does that, yeah, as the undisputed champion of the lightweight division, yeah, and then moves up to 140, to me, he's on the heels of a certain Terence Crawford in terms of career path. And possibly, if he could do that and do what Terence is doing and go up to the 3rd division and potentially take on there and do stuff. Because let's be honest, Terence got a great record, but at lightweight, his competition wasn't newsworthy. He beat everybody that, was decent, but it wasn't newsworthy. Okay? Goes up to light welter, beats up on everybody. But again, they're not legacy fights. And now he's gone up to welter and he started making his name against some decent world champions, ex-world champions. And most people put him in the top 3 pound for pound. Yeah. And I'm saying that Devin Haney, if he takes out Tank and Loma at lightweight, he can start talking about that situation. But without,
like I said, he can take out the 140 division. He can take out the 147 when he gets older. He doesn't need those fights.
He doesn't do his legacy the same good, bro.
But what good does Tank fight do his legacy? Like, who has Tank beat to really say, oh, yeah, he's the guy that you have to beat to cement you're the best guy?
Really? Guys in the chat.
Really? Answer the question. Who's he beat for him to be the guy? Loma? Okay, cool. Okay. Tank? Why Tank?
Okay. So clearly you're in the school of Tank is not worthy of praise.
No, what I'm saying is, why does Tank's name have to be the one he has to beat to cement his legacy when Tank ain't beat no one legacy worthy at present? Why?
I understand that. But
furthermore, he can fight Tank at 140. Tank's not even an official, fully fledged 135. He goes up and down. Remember, fight him at 140.
Put it this way, yeah, Tank is competing right now at lightweight. He can
go up to super lightweight.
Okay.
Why does he need to fight him at 130? You can fight him at catchweight then, 137. Why does he have to keep killing himself to make 135 when it's clearly taking a toll on him? You can see it. Everyone has seen it for the last 3 years.
I can't believe you're talking catchweight fights.
I'm talking 140. You're the one that wants him to keep sucking himself down to 135.
Okay. So to jam down, Tank has fought at 140. I do understand that. But is Tank got ambition to go up to 140? He could fight there. There's no doubt. But let's be honest. When he fought at 140, it was a cherry pick. Yeah?
He's cherry picked to 135. Like, what's the difference? Like, Tony, you know what? Let's get on to a new way because we're not going to do this today. Your Tank love is out of pocket.
It is clearly you're not seeing it on the same level as me. I'm just going to read off the canvas's comment. Tank is a credible fight name. Yes, his CV isn't fantastic, but it's the Canelo Floyd situation. He beats him and the credibility strengthens over time.
But Canelo had credible names on his record before he fought Floyd. That's the difference off the canvas.
Okay. We're going to agree to differ on that one. Haney versus Loma, or at worst, Haney versus Garcia. So, yeah, I mean, Base is talking sense. Lucky Tony ain't Devin's matchmaker. No, because I want Devin Haney to be a generational superstar. And in order to be that guy, yeah, to follow in the footsteps of Terence Crawford, Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, you've got to beat the big names that are there when they're there.
Yeah, and he called them out 2 years ago when they didn't want to give it to
so
him. Now he's struggling to make the
then.
weight. Why do you want to keep making him suck down to 135? For what?
All right.
He's done it. He's checked the game. He's accomplished more than both Tank and Loma now, technically. Neither of them have been undisputed. He has.
Okay. So you man there are giving everything. I'm not even going to go into it. I'm just going to give you guys your flowers and say, okay, look, Loma had his chance and ducked and chose franchise and lost to T.O. So Devin should fight T.O. at 140, which would be a fight for no titles, Danny. What's the point? Stupidness. Who the hell goes up with 4 belts to the next weight and fights a guy with no titles? You man.
Why not? If you're claiming he's one of the, if he's one of the best guys in that division, then does he need a title to be that guy?
Oh my God.
Yes or no?
Does he need a title to be that guy?
If he's considered as one of the best guys in that division, does he need a title to fight him? Is what I'm asking you.
Oh my God. All right.
I'm asking a genuine question here, Tony. It's like,
it's a nothing fight, brother, because there's nothing to win. There's nothing.
I just thought the best should fight the best regardless of titles. That's what you were saying the other day.
Bro. How's he the best? He ain't even fought at 140.
But you claimed at one point he was one of the best. But you claimed he was one of the best at 135 at one point, right? So he's still one of the top guys, yes? So beating him is more credible than beating someone else who hasn't done what he achieved.
Yeah. Tank is the perfect fight for Haney. Loma actually makes less sense given his circumstances. One fight against Tank and he can meet them rest at 140. Haney can do what he wants. He can be generational superstar if he fights Tank later on. Crawford fought no names really at lightweight, which is my point. It's like you said, TC, only getting his flowers now at a higher weight class. Yes. Haney needs to fight a top guy at 135. You know, imagine Sugar Ray Leonard saying, Tommy Hearns, me and you are champions at welterweight, but we won't fight each other till we get to middleweight. The foolery. Anyway, there's people weighing on this one, so 140 is a brilliant division though. As good as lightweight with Garcia, with Tank. With
You're just talking about names.
Potentially T.O.
But then they're just names. That doesn't make them better than the fighters at 140. The fighters at 140 are actually better than them. They're just bigger names.
Really?
Are you telling me William Zapata isn't a better fighter than Ryan Garcia? Is that what you're telling me?
Which one of them fighters is better than Lomachenko?
Better than who? Lomachenko.
At 140.
Well, Teofimo beat him, didn't he? So technically, does that not make him better? Yes or no? Argument done. Move on.
It's not an argument because Teofimo hasn't fought at 140, my brother.
But he's at 140. He is officially at 140. We all know this.
Okay. All right. Right. So moving on then. We'll get into the next fight for the night, which was there was nothing else on that show, was there?
No.
I didn't see anything else worth talking about. So we go to Saitama, Japan, this morning at 11 or 12:30ish.
It was about 1 o'clock.
It was about 1 o'clock by the time they actually got it together, was it?
Yeah, it started a quarter past.
I got the first fight started watching was around 11, which was Takuma Inoue defending his title against Funishima. But the main event is the one we're here to talk about, which was, of course, Naoya Inoue versus Nonito Flash Donaire, the rematch from a few years back. And to say that we were expecting a barnstormer was an understatement, because I showed you the highlights last week of the first fight, which went ding dong. Obviously ended up with Inoue getting a broken eye socket. Nonito Donaire has gone on to great things since that fight and looked super impressive. So I was expecting nothing else but fireworks this afternoon. Unfortunately, those fireworks only fired in one direction. So
very true.
They were a two-round fight, just about 5 minutes of action. First round was cagey, but towards the end of it, Inoue, after throwing majorly left hands, delivered the straight right, which buckled the legs of Donaire, and Nonito just didn't even look like he was ever going to recover from that, to be honest. He went back to his corner, but he just looked a shell of the man. It looked like that one punch aged him 10 years. He came out second round, and Inoue kind of knew where he was going, and Nonito really, for all of his effort, was never in the fight, was never going to recover. His legs, every time he got hit on, and it seemed to hit him on the top of the head. He was throwing this regular right hand onto the temple, or just above the temple area of Donaire, and it just threw his senses all over the shop. And yeah, I mean, it's sad to see Donaire go out like that. I personally think that's probably one of the last times we're likely to see him. But what a performance from Naoya Inoue. Once again, after the very heated battle they had the previous occasion, Inoue came out this time and made a statement that tells you, I'm here, I'm the king, and all the belts, they're coming my way. So he now takes home 3 belts from that division. He's now recognized as the undisputed in that division, bar one title, a WBO title held by Paul Butler. But yeah, to me, a fantastic performance for Inoue, and sets him up for great things. Obviously, the first thing would be to finish off that division and finish taking all the belts in there, and then to move up and start talking about the next way up. Considering that this is his 3rd division and he missed out a division, so he's actually competed in what should be considered 4 weight divisions already, won titles in 3, potentially going to be undisputed in 1, and then to go up, that would, to me, put him way up there in that conversation for pound king. What's your talk on that one, Base?
Yeah, I mean, so I obviously in my video had stated that I thought that Donaire would do it. Admittedly, it was more kind of heart and just liking his trajectory recently, more so than really analytically looking at it. But the reasons I figured that that Donaire could actually beat him this time, number one, he had said certain things, basically saying, look, the last fight I didn't come to fight, I just kind of came to take part, didn't really believe that I could win. Now I know I can hurt him. It's a different story. And if you look at the fights that Donaire's had as recent compared to the fights that Inoue had as of late, like Donaire looked a lot more impressive in a lot of his recent fights than Inoue did. So it just felt like he had this resurgence, and he just felt like he wasn't gonna be denied. that being said, obviously I did that video prior to seeing the weigh and seeing how the two of them look, because in that very last fight, Inoue looked like much smaller. He looked like a much smaller than Daenerys. Like Daenerys was clearly the much bigger guy, but in this fight, they virtually looked like the same. Like Inoue proper filled out. He looked strong, and he's like, there was at that point it was just a case of, oh, it's now a lot more even between the two of them, and ultimately he's now coming into his full prime, man strength, everything. And then there's obviously on the back, he's always been towards the back of his career, but now it's really kind of showed. He took, as they say, like getting old overnight. He got old in the ring. That being said, I take absolutely nothing away from Daenerys. I think he's been an amazing ambassador for the sport. He's a credit to the sport of boxing, but so is Naoya Inoue. He is the monster. It's going to take someone incredibly special to beat him anywhere up to, I would say, possibly featherweight, because even then that power is going to be there to carry him through. But yeah, like I said, I kind of did this one more on heart than head, but I didn't think it would be an easy fight either way. I definitely said it wasn't getting the distance, and lo and behold, it didn't. So that's pretty much all I can really say about it. There's not a huge amount to dissect, apart from the fact that Daenerys started quite aggressively, pressuring forward, which was a lot more telling than he did in the last fight. Inoue was backing off. He was circling the ropes. He was using the outer ring at one point. And it was just a case of, it almost looks like at one point he was not, I'm not going to say scared, but it looked like he was definitely wary of the power, and he was trying to do everything to make sure that he could stay away from it. And towards the start of the round, and Inoue even said this himself in the post-fight interview, like he got caught with a left hook that hurt him, and it immediately woke him up and said he had to stay switched on, and he had to just be sharp after that. And lo and behold, he managed to set Inoue, he managed to set Daenerys up. He kept hitting him with the left to make him just concentrate on that left-hand side, thinking, okay, I can switch and I can use this, I can use the left hook. And as soon as he went to rally for the left hook, Inoue caught him. He saw him about to do his tail, that he was about to swing it. And then that's when he just went with a straight right down the pipe. And yeah, just took Daenerys' legs away, and from there it was pretty much all she wrote. And he did it in a controlled manner. He didn't rush him. He didn't try and like flurry and just get him out of there like that. He literally took his time. He dissected him after that in the next round. He still took one or two other shots, but ultimately the shots just didn't have the same snap and luster on them. So yeah, that was pretty much that was that. And he got the job done in spectacular fashion, and there is no way I can ever sort of go against him head or heart next time. There's no one else I think is really a credible opponent to him in those lower weights at this point. So yeah,
you're absolutely right. So look, if Nanita Daenerys decides to continue fighting, good luck to him. But he's had an absolutely phenomenal career. Some great fights in his resume. If he decides to hang it up, then he's still a legend.
Hold on, before you go to there, I just want to ask. All right, Ash, write in the comments what my quote unquote consequences should be, because you've been on there for a while. So write in there what you would like these consequences to be, and we'll see if we can make it happen for you. It seems to be the highlight of your evening, so I'm trying to make your dreams come true right about now.
Oh, he's having you on.
It's cool. Whatever they are, if I can achieve it, let's go.
Ash, you want to come in and have a chat with us? We'll send you the link if you want, bro. If you want to come in, we'll give you the link. That's all. A formal
apology. Apologize for what? Like, no, I'm not apologizing.
Man's allowed to get it wrong, you know, Ash. We are allowed to get it wrong. You know, this is a subjective sport. You know, look, me and Base, we have differences. We often come in here and we'll talk up a talk and we'll have a difference of opinion. That's just the love of the sport. That's the nature of the game. You know, the fact that, you know, he thinks Tank isn't all that and I think Tank is the real deal. You know, that's our subjective opinion. So, you know, Lower Man, you know, it's not important that we get the correct result right every time in order to be knowledgeable about this sport. You know, a lot of the time we're giving our a view of an event before it even happens. If we could get it right every week, we'd both be millionaires.
Right. Do you want to talk about the pound for pound thing that you was discussing before the show?
I kind of was looking at the fact that we currently have a number of guys who are either undisputed or have been undisputed and are worthy of the praise. I mean, I could have put the likes of Teofimo and Kambosos on this list because they have been former undisputed champions and are still active. But these are the current guys that I would say are active, undisputed. I know it's been a while since Terence has been an undisputed, but I'm still giving him that prop. And similarly with Usyk. The question is, who is the king? Who is the king?
Well, who's the number one?
Who's number one right now in the pound for pound?
Usyk,
okay. Guys, put your views in the chat. I'm just interested in seeing what the guys think. I mean, we had this a couple of weeks back, but obviously the game of boxing has moved on so quickly because the last time we spoke, two of them guys weren't in this picture.
Hold on, Tony. Sorry, one sec. Lennox, just to let you know, what Tony's basically saying is that they were. He's talking about guys that were previously undisputed and now hold a belt. So that's why, I mean, obviously he believes that Teo and Kambosos were because he classified the franchise. That's him. Like, I don't agree with that. That's a Tonyism right there. But yeah, but that was what he was saying. The reason why Terence Usyk and Canelo was there. But yeah, he always believed that Kambosos and Teofimo were undisputed because Loma never officially lost the WBC belt. That's his rationale. I don't subscribe to that. So Tony, you can defend that.
No, look, if you don't want to believe that, then that's up to you. That's your subjective view.
Well, it's not subjective, it's factual.
Well, factual is only factual if you understand the rudiments of what is classified as a real belt. Is a franchise belt a real belt or is it a falsity?
It's false, but they never had the real belt.
Is it false? Because I'm pretty certain what Devin Haney has got strapped round it is called a franchise belt. Is it not?
No, he's got the actual WBC belt.
Is it not a franchise belt?
No.
Okay.
He denounced the franchise. He said he doesn't want it. Okay. He's a WBC champ.
Fine. I mean, you know, look, at the end of the day, certain men have had 4 belts in their time. Some of them have had as much as 6 belts in their time, if you count the ring and the IBO, yeah? Or, you know, I put this in my group. There's certain men, I've got 1 million straps. And you're like, what the hell? Because I think I think Devin has got about 3 WBC belts. And you're like, well, hang on a second, which is which? But yeah, guys, put your thing in there. Who do you think is the current king of the pound for pounders? And if not in that list of fighters, then I'd imagine you've got a fighter from this group who are the next potential line of undisputed champions, because these guys are either a strap away or 2 straps away from being crowned undisputed. Now, of course, there's a load of guys with one belt who could make 4 belts, like Dimitri Bivol. But I'm not counting you if you only got 1 belt, especially if you didn't win it from an undisputed or a unified champion. So, yeah, just thought I'd throw that one in. We'd have a couple of minutes to let you put in who you think. Balfour Owusu, Errol Jr. should be on that. Yeah, as I said, he's in that second list of guys who have got 2 or 3 belts. Off the canvas says Canelo, Usyk, Crawford, Taylor, then Inoue. I don't see how you have Taylor over Inoue. That just seems mad to me, OTC. That just is just a madness. One guy's got belts in 1 division, another guy's got belts in 3 out of 4 divisions. But you know, it's all subjective. Everyone's allowed their viewpoint. Ash says the same thing. Josh Taylor over Inoue makes me sick. That's my opinion. If I have it, Inoue, Taylor, I won't be bad. Current king for RDR is Bud Crawford.
Big up starter.
Is that who RDR is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's up, starter? Didn't even realize that. Okay, so yeah, the votes are in. Can't see any more. Travis in the house. Big up, Travis. Marks. Nice to see you, Marks. He comes in with Usyk, Canelo, Crawford, Spence, Devin, Inoue, Charlo, Loma, Taylor. And I can't argue with that. I mean, Taylor over Loma probably, but I can't argue with that. Danny says Inoue, Canelo, Crawford, Usyk, Haney. Again, I can't argue with that. OTC has had enough. Ash has seen too much of OTC, I should say. Clembo can too many on key fights and 2 failed ped tests. You man, allow it.
I see off the canvas. He said, Travis, after yesterday, I thought you would have relaxed. Oh. Trav, you know he's going to be putting up a next set of sound bites for you for Monday. Best get ready.
Osborne, what do you mean my dislike for Loma? I'm only putting Loma where he deserves to be based on his activity in the last 2 years. Yeah? Loma is one of my all-time favorite fighters. When I say all-time, I mean all-time. You know, went to see Lomachenko, met the guy in person, got the pictures. There at the fight with Linares in New York City. That's a guy there that I truly, you know, I've loved that guy since the amateurs. I saw him fight at York Hall, WBCC series or WBSS series, whatever it's called now, where the same night I saw Joe Joyce get taken apart by Alexander Usyk. So I'm all about Lomachenko. I was there at the Olympics when he won his gold medal. And I really like the guy. I really like the guy. But I'm not capping. He ain't fought anyone of worth in the last 2 years. And guys have surpassed him. So that's my view. Travis, can't go there. Shakur Stevenson should be on that pound for pound list. He should be somewhere. Maybe he doesn't make it on the top 8, but yeah, for sure he should be because he's another one of them guys, isn't he?
By the way, OTC, the commission come back. They did say that they've yet to receive your test samples for the last couple of weeks. Can you get those over to them, please?
So, guys, thank you very much for your comments on that. We have enjoyed our night tonight. We slightly overrun, but I think there was so much stuff to talk about. And of course, it's good, healthy debate when, you know, we don't always agree on everything. But there was a hell of a lot of talk around a lot of fights this weekend gone, and a lot of jostling for positions in different weight categories and pound for pound overall. So, you know, we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Very quickly, there is a little showdown this weekend. Anyone want to make your predictions on this bad boy?
You know what?
I'm personally not going to make a choice until Friday weigh-in because I want to see what condition Bryant comes in.
Agreed. Nah, I'm the same. If he comes in looking as he looked in the last couple, then he might do okay for a couple rounds, but no. But if he comes in shape like I know he can, then I think he will win that fight. But I need to see how he looks on the scales first before I make any formal prediction.
Cool. So, guys, that's us done for the show today. Thank you very much for joining us this Tuesday evening.
Hold on, Tony. Sorry, before you go, there's a question there that you need to address from Lennox.
For me?
Yeah. Well, it's more of a comment, but he needs you to clear that one up. He says, no, so Loma hasn't fought anybody in the last 2 years, but Tank has. You need to explain that one to him.
Okay. Has Tank won belts in the last 2 years? Yes. Has Loma? No.
Tank hasn't. No, Tank hasn't won belts. They were Reggie titles. They're not real. Remember?
There we go.
Are they real? You said the other day you don't claim the belts. Now you're gonna use them in your argument. Come on, Tony. Look, don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to yourself.
Oh, you man. I tell you man, and this Reggie belt thing rubbish.
You're the one that
absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
So they're legit world titles, is what you're saying?
Okay, so what did not Devin Haney have a Reggie belt?
No, he had a proper belt.
No, he had a Reggie belt, bruv.
No, he had the interim world title and was elevated to the official world champion. It's not the same.
Official is Reggie, unless it's franchise.
What?
There ain't a third belt.
All right, let's end the show. Tony's drunk. He needs to get back to the kids. Get that safe to the wife.
Look, I've done my drink. I'm finished. I'm done. I'm out.
Laters, guys.
Laters, guys.